Good evening everyone, I'm Julie Quartermain and welcome to Saturday Tats Keno. Our jackpot tonight is $1,801,000. Lots of luck to you. And on to tonight's draw we have 25, 19, there's 66, number 5, 54, there's 7, 40. Remember Tats Keno is only $1 a game. There's 27, 21, and number 3 takes us halfway through the draw. Then we have 20, 41, number 1, there's 77, 61, number 49, 46, number 2, 56, and last but not least for this Saturday is 39. Enjoy your evening. Good night.
6:30 tonight, Harry Connick Jr. and Brooke Shields on Hey Hey. Then 8:30, Claudia Carvin leads an all-star Australian cast in The Violent Earth.
This is National 9 News with Joe Hall.
Frankston East voters have their say on Victoria's future. More militia killed in another clash with Timor peacekeepers. And Sky Heights wins Damien Oliver his 4th Caulfield Cup. Good evening. All Social Night mates reunited as thousands gather to celebrate the Snowy scheme 50 years on. Polling booths have closed and counting has just begun in the Frankston East re-election, which is likely to determine which party forms a minority government. A big swing to Labor will almost certainly tip the independent MPs towards the ALP. But David Broadbent says that right to the end, both sides were playing down their prospects.
Hi, Jeff Kennett.
Good morning.
An upbeat and buoyant Jeff Kennett was out early this morning, surprising some of the first voters when the polling booths opened at 8 o'clock.
Deserve another go. Thank you.
It was all enough for Mr Kennett to jokingly claim an early swing.
I think we're all close to the poll now. I think we're ahead.
A warm reception too for Labor leader Steve Bracks, who spent the day touring the electorate with candidate Matt Viney.
Yeah, how are you? Yeah, very good.
While Liberal candidate Cherie McLean voted early, Mr Viney lives outside the electorate and was not eligible.
Good luck today.
The good-natured exchanges masked the critical importance of this rerun election, in which Labor needs a 3.1% swing to take the seat, formerly held by Liberal-turned-independent Peter McClellan, who died on election day. The latest Australian news poll shows a swing of more than 6% to Labor, with a two-party preferred vote of 53.5%, compared with the Liberals' 46.5%. That would give the coalition 43 seats, Labor 42, with 3 independents. Mr Kennett could then form a government with the support of 2 independents, but Labor would need all 3.
At the end of the day, there is one word which governs what the independents will decide, and that's the word trust. Who do they trust? And I think it'll come down to that one word.
Jeff Kennett virtually conceded defeat in Frankston East 3 weeks ago and insists today's vote cannot be seen as a referendum on who should govern.
If we win it, we get half the seats in the parliament. If Labor wins it, they take them to 42. We still end up with the largest number of seats in the parliament, so you have that constitutional position where we'll be relying on the decision of the independents on Monday.
And Joe, it's obviously too early for any figures at this stage, but Labor is confident, quietly confident, it will win this seat. But there's a growing expectation on both sides that a big swing to Labor will almost certainly tip 2 of the independents to Labor when they make their announcement on Monday. But of course there's 28,000 votes still to count here, and with 16 candidates, experts here think we could be in for a long night. Back to you, Joe.
Thanks, David. A light plane has crashed at Lethbridge between Geelong and Ballarat late this afternoon. It's believed a flying instructor and a student were killed. There are reports the thruster ultralight folded in mid-air before plunging into a paddock. Sky Heights' fast-finishing win in today's Caulfield Cup was almost overshadowed by a doping scandal. Police are investigating the nobbling of 2 Caulfield-trained horses, which were due to race this afternoon. Anthony Mithen begins our coverage.
The Melbourne Cup is the race that stops a nation. Caulfield, though, is doing its best. The racing world was shocked this morning to learn that two of today's favourite runners in races other than the Cup had been nobbled. Both trained by Tony Vazel, it was business as usual at his stables this morning, although he was too distressed to speak as promising Pareto and speedy group horse Mastic battled for their lives. Police are now investigating the attack.
They were affected to such an extent that they'd be incapable of racing. That's about as far as I can go.
The racing fraternity was disgusted by the act of malice, some trainers deeply concerned.
You don't like these things to be happening anywhere in racing, and especially when it's so close to your own stables, you know.
Racing police stepped up pre-race blood testing, swabbing nearly 75% of the day's runners. Chief Steward Des Gleeson, who inspected the two horses yesterday, wouldn't comment on the matter, but did make his message clear to Cup jockeys.
We wish you a good, safe ride and may the best horse and rider win.
The doping saga was tipped out of the limelight as last-minute nerves kicked in for the $1.8 million Cup. Trainers delivering last-minute instructions.
It's good, nice to see. It's good walking around here.
But it was a familiar face who had the responsibility of riding 2-to-1 favourite Sky Heights. It turned out to be the best seat in the house.
Laybeal and Sky Heights at Hammer and Tongo. Laybeal, Sky Heights, they hit the line. Photo. Sky Heights by a nose to Laybeal in a flurry as third.
For winning trainer Colin Alderson, it erased the bitter memories of 12 months ago. For winning jockey Damien Oliver, it was Cup number 4. Do you pinch yourself a bit, 4 Cups at the age of 27?
It's, when you stop to think about it, it's hard to believe, but yeah, it's, I love winning big races like this. Is what you ride every day for.
Alderson, though, was trying to keep his feet on the ground.
I still got to get up in the morning and pick up the manure.
Anthony Mithen, National 9 News.
More than 43,000 people, a record crowd, flocked to Caulfield for the big race and a day of sunshine, champagne and fun. Susie Calder joined them.
Sunshine at last on one of the more turbulent weeks in racing history. The Caulfield Cup today turned 123, and while much has changed in the Glamour Stakes, the order of the day remains the same: champagne, cash and a tip.
I wouldn't be surprised if an outsider gets in.
I think I'd have to go for the favourite.
Away from the track, hundreds of Tabcorp telephone betting operators walked off the job after failing to secure a wage increase. The extent of disruption to betting won't be known until Monday. But that didn't matter to the crowds jostling for pole position at Caulfield's popular front lawn, some toasting more than big wins.
Happy birthday to you! Cheers!
Early race action had fans jumping for joy. Just as impressive, though, fashions on the field, hotly contested by a record 60 entrants. This year's winner with a design of her own.
My Fair Lady, obviously, Audrey Hepburn, but basically just big and fantastic. So
more than 40,000 punters have gathered trackside to celebrate the last Caulfield Cup of the century. Among them, a former jockey who claimed his first win here 50 years ago today.
Well, I was only young then, and it was just a win, but it was about a week later and I suddenly realised I'd won a big race.
A feat these would-be jockeys can only dream of.
If the horse holds up, we're going to win for sure.
Winning hearts this Caulfield Cup regular.
A team of wild horse couldn't tear me apart.
Susie Calder, National 9 News.
There were major delays on the Westgate Freeway today after 4 cars and a fuel tanker collided. Outbound lanes were closed while police directed frustrated motorists onto the Bolte Bridge, slowing traffic to a crawl. 30,000 litres of petrol was emptied from the tanker into another truck before the bridge was reopened to traffic a short time ago. Australian-led peacekeeping troops in East Timor have been involved in another gun battle in which 3 pro-Indonesian militias have been shot dead. The latest clash occurred near the town of Balibo, where 24 years ago today, 5 newsmen were killed. Simon Boda with today's developments.
The Australian soldiers were ambushed this morning, up to 20 militiamen armed with semi-automatic weapons opening fire. It happened near the town of Marco, about 20 kilometres from the West Timor border. Returning fire, the platoon radioed for help, but was pinned down as the militiamen closed in.
Show a level of training, a level of aggression, and of course it has obviously ensured that our soldiers have remained vigilant.
A helicopter flew in and managed to evacuate the patrol. The militia threat is ever increasing. This group has gathered in West Timor, its members happy to display their firepower. The gang says it plans to cross into East Timor and launch more attacks against the peacekeepers. At the town of Balibo, a sombre day as 5 Australian newsmen murdered 24 years ago today were remembered. For the people of East Timor, the murder of the 5 journalists seems almost a forgotten memory. Now, with all the recent violence, it doesn't seem that long ago at all. In Dili, the suffering goes on. These children are bedridden at the Red Cross Hospital. They desperately need treatment, but many local doctors and nurses who fled during the bloodshed still haven't returned. Other children need strength beyond their years. This boy watches over his sister. The recent violence has left them orphaned. In Dili, Simon Boda, National 9 News.
In the news ahead, an American doctor rescued from the South Pole and rifling through musical memories.
When you invest with Rothschild, you open the door to 200 years of investment experience, which could lead you to markets in Australia or around the world. You could venture into shares, property, bonds, cash, confident in Rothschild's proven investment philosophy. Call now to benefit from a Rothschild-managed investment or see your financial planner. Rothschild. Experience pays.
You know, Daniel, it's about time we had that father-to-son chat. If you want to stay ahead of the pack in this world, you know what you need. That's right. Oomph. Feel that? Now that's oomph. Falcon oomph. More oomph than the others. That's right. It'll keep you in front and out of trouble. Nothing can stop you in your Falcon. Well, almost nothing.
Some people shop the world for fashion and style. Now there's only one destination you need to know. New, exciting ranges and very exciting introductory offers. Come in this week. Gainesville, South Bank and Northcote.
When you invest with Rothschild, you open the door to proven performance. Our 5 Arrows Balanced Fund has returned an average of 11.7% per annum over the last 3 years. Call now or see your financial planner. Rothschild. Experience pays.
A huge explosion has torn through a shopping centre on Brisbane's northern outskirts, causing more than $1 million damage. The blast occurred early this morning, ripping a gaping chunk from the roof and smashing windows for hundreds of metres. 8 businesses were destroyed, including a Thai restaurant, where investigators believe the explosion was caused by ruptured gas pipes. Half a century ago, in the Snowy Mountains, work began on the biggest project in Australia's history. The dream of providing irrigation and cheap, clean power was brought to life by workers from every part of the planet. This weekend, they're celebrating again. Mark Ferguson is there.
The Snowies at the start of a very special weekend. This, the biggest hydroelectricity scheme of them all, and it all began 50 years ago. 100,000 men and women worked on the project that rerouted water to the west and helped power a nation. Today, many of the originals gathered again to remember a time that gave Australia so much. There were those who hadn't seen each other for decades. And those who'd never left each other's sides. The Tateras met and married in the Snowies. Tomorrow, the centrepiece of the weekend, when more than 15,000 people will gather on the shores of Lake Jindabyne. So this magnificent stage is set for the next act. Many of those who helped reshape this landscape will tomorrow reunite. 50 years on, it's memories and mateship that should flow freely. In the Snowy Mountains, Mark Ferguson, National 9 News.
An American Air Force plane has completed a round trip to the South Pole to rescue a doctor suffering suspected breast cancer. The aircraft spent just 20 minutes on the ground in below freezing temperatures. More from Robert Penfold.
The rescue has been months in the planning, and today temperatures at the South Pole rose high enough for the specially equipped Hercules military planes to pick up Dr. Jerry Nielsen. The 47-year-old doctor, who has been treating herself for breast cancer since June, is said to be in good spirits despite her ordeal.
Hi, guys.
3 months ago, when she discovered her condition, it was too cold and too dangerous to land. So an emergency flight made the 6-hour round trip to drop medical supplies to Dr. Nielsen. The packages included chemotherapy drugs, and during her ongoing treatment, she's been given day-to-day help via the internet. This morning, the plane, fitted with skis, landed on the polar plateau. It kept its engines revving in the minus 50-degree temperatures while Dr. Nielsen climbed aboard and a replacement doctor was dropped off. Back in America, her family is also tracking the operation on the internet. After treatment in New Zealand, Dr. Nielsen will be taken back to the United States. Her mother expects her courageous daughter to overcome her present problems and perhaps even return to the southernmost tip of the world to complete her tour of duty. Robert Penfold, National 9 News.
The United States has clamped preliminary sanctions on Pakistan with the threat of more wide-ranging measures following this week's military coup. The Americans have also demanded the early restoration of democracy. In other world news, United Nations peacekeepers in Kosovo have been caught in a wild riot in the city of Mitrovica. The trouble began when ethnic Albanians tried to cross a bridge leading to the Serb-controlled area of the city. French troops eventually barricaded the bridge with armoured vehicles. Share prices in Europe and the United States have tumbled after a warning about excess by America's Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan and a rise in inflation. Wall Street dropped to its lowest level since early April. There's speculation interest rates could soon rise. And French-founded medical relief group Doctors Without Borders has won the last Nobel Peace Prize of the century. Staff at the Paris headquarters cheered when the award was announced. The organisation sends medical volunteers into war zones and disaster areas around the globe. Most people like music, but not to the extent that their entire house is given over to 50,000 recordings, many of which have never been played. As Wayne Dyer discovered, the collection was amassed over 30 years by a North Balwyn man.
Walking into Toorak auctions to be confronted by 28,000 vinyl records, 20,000 CDs and 5,000 tapes, 78s and videos, most people react the same.
Mind-blowing. Unbelievable. Mind-blowing. It's absolutely amazing.
I wouldn't have believed that it could have come from one person's home. It's incomprehensible.
A home that was literally wall-to-wall music. These shelves groaning with a repertoire ranging from rock to the classics, much of it brand new and unplayed. Even the kitchen pantry was packed with CDs.
It's not my cup of tea, but yeah, he obviously enjoyed himself.
There's also music and machines from the earliest recordings. It's not surprising that much of the collection has never been opened, because for one person to listen to all this music doing nothing else but sleeping at nights would take between 6 and 7 years. On Monday and Tuesday it all goes under the hammer, after which this mountain of music should receive a wider audience. Have you seen anything you like?
Yes, quite a few have marked them here.
Have you?
Yes.
We're getting there. There's a lot to look at.
There's something for everybody here, I'm sure.
Wayne Dyer, National 9 News.
Leith Mulligan is here now with sport.
Thanks, Joe. After the break, the rest of the day's racing from Caulfield, and a former Victorian punishes the bushrangers.
The political stunt that killed Katie Bender.
We were so close.
Uncovering a trail of government blunders and tragic deceit.
She ran the spectacle and she's not wearing it.
And Kylie at 31, still so very...
Lucky.
Sunday on 60 Minutes.
I didn't choose to get caught in a corporate downsizing.
And I didn't choose to listen when they said, at least you've got your husband to take care of you. But I did choose to invest with Merck over the years. So now I can afford to start my own business. If things go well, I might even put my husband on full time.
Mercantile Mutual helps people invest for choices in life. Now, what can we do for you?
Hurry into Hardware House, Australia's #1 home improvement centre for the best prices in town. Like Roundup Weed Killer 825mm trigger pack, top value at only $8.95. Hardware House, always the best prices in town.
Oh, here you go. Use mine. Nah, mate. Well, go on. Take it, my friend. It's yours. Go for it. Dial away. Talk for as long as you like. Who cares?
Right now, Telstra MobileNet is giving away $200 of free calls in your first month on new phone deals. That's $7 a day to use on your first bill and the balance on your next. That adds up to more than $200 of free calls.
For really relevant stuff about money, access to expert advisors, and the chance to win a groovy new VW Cabriolet, race into Mercantile Mutual's Financial Passages website. Hurry, competition closes soon.
This sports report is brought to you by the powerful Holden Rodeo V6.
Good evening. The War Twins have given Australia the upper hand in the Test match against Zimbabwe. While Mark struck 90, Steve is still at the crease. Australia almost 100 runs ahead, but there's been some drama to start day 3. Here's Brad McEwen.
Resuming at 5 for 275, the Australians got off to the worst possible start.
And that is the breakthrough Zimbabwe needed first up.
Ian Healy dismissed off the first ball of the day. Yesterday it was Justin Langer and Mark Waugh who laid the foundations for Australia.
That's an absolutely glorious shot.
On 44, Langer went for a run that wasn't and paid the price.
That's an appeal, and he's gone.
Steve Waugh made his intentions clear.
Lovely shot 4.
The brothers Waugh were a class above the opposition.
And money for jam for Mark Waugh.
With Australia 20 runs behind Zimbabwe's first innings total, the locals broke through.
In the air, and what a catch.
Brother Steve lucky not to follow soon after.
Goodness me, that could prove expensive.
Ponting was enjoying his time in the middle before the new ball brought about his downfall.
And what a catch.
At the Wacker, a stunning career-best performance from ex-bushranger Brad Williams triggered a Victoria collapse, losing its last 7 wickets for just 36 runs. Resuming at 3 for 254, the rot set in early. Harvey came and went, Berry and Rifle didn't bother to trouble the scorers.
Wow, beauty.
Matthew Mott notched up 100 before he too was on his way. Paul Rifle grabbed 2 early wickets.
Oh, he's bowled him.
David Saker grabbed the 3rd.
As that's short and out.
Brad McEwen, National 9 News.
As you saw earlier, Sky Heights has given Damien Oliver his 4th Caulfield Cup. Sky Heights started a 5-2 favourite, beating LaBille with In a Flurry 3rd. But as Michael Roberts reports, other races also held plenty of interest.
With the track upgraded to dead, jockey Greg Hall was confident on Delirious in the IGA Supermarket Stakes.
He's spot on today. He's spot on, mate. Couldn't any better.
In the early going, it was Withdrawn, which was forthcoming. On the corner, Northern Song was on song, but the 3rd Emergency in the race took his chance and picked off an inside run.
Another Neptune has burst through on the fence. Wide out as Weasel Will, but it's another Neptune from Strident closing the last bit, but another Neptune right on the fence won it.
Another Neptune started at 50s, giving Craig Williams a riding double. Strident next to 12s. Equal favourite Weasel Will 3rd. In the 1100-metre Scalacci Stakes, Natois had to find a path around 3 litres. Greg Hall the perfect finish.
Natois going home a shade the better. Put the head in front of Far Rain and Natois. Natois drew clear and won at 3/4 to Far Rain.
Natois was at 20-1. Far Rain 9-2, a .11s. So the daily double at Caulfield paid $21 for the numbers 1 and 1. The quaddie for 19, 13, 1 and 7 was worth more than $62,000 and the straight 6 jackpots. Michael Roberts, National 9 News.
Ireland has won the International Rules Series against Australia despite a draw in the second test in Adelaide last night. The scores were locked at 52 apiece at the final siren, but the Irish win in Melbourne last week was enough to clinch the overall title. 6 points down with only 30 seconds left, Australia had little chance of victory, but firstly Rowan Smith and then Nathan Buckley restored some hometown pride.
52 each in the second test match, but it matters little to the Irishmen.
Leighton Hewitt has set up a semi-final showdown with former world number 1 Marcelo Rios in the Singapore Open. While Andrew Illy's run came to an end in the quarters, Hewitt progressed with an easy win over his Dutch opponent, John van Lottem.
Hewitt dropped just one game in the first set as he breezed past Van Lottem. He let 2 slip in the second, but Hewitt's job was done. Illy tackled his opponent head-on and lost. In golf, Craig Parry's run at the World Match Play has come to an end, beaten by American Mark O'Meara. But not without a fight, Parry came back from a 3-shot deficit. On the third playoff hole, a chip had Parry beat and O'Meara into the semi-finals. Michael Schumacher has returned from injury to Formula One in style, a second faster than anyone in qualifying for the Malaysian Grand Prix, the penultimate race of the season. His Ferrari teammate and championship contender Eddie Irvine was second quickest. McLaren's filled the second row of the grid. Coverage on 9 from 3:50 tomorrow afternoon. On the Gold Coast, a morning practice crash for provisional pole sitter Paul Tracy had him out of action in the afternoon. He wasn't the only one to get a taste for concrete balls in qualifying for tomorrow's Indy 300. Scotsman Dario Franchitti avoided all obstacles to post the fastest time and take pole late in the session.
Amazing stuff from Dario Franchitti.
A hug from teammate Tracy, but tomorrow is a street war on wheels. The V8 supercar's testament to that.
Oh, that's a big crash.
Saturday's scoreboard starts with the opening match of the Rugby League's Tri-Nation Series. Here's Jamie Eldridge.
Australia and New Zealand kicked off the series in Auckland, the home side racing to a 24-2 lead.
A third try is coming! A third try is here!
Facing their heaviest ever Test match defeat, the Kangaroos produced 3 second-half tries, bringing them to the brink of victory.
Here comes the try for Richardson!
However, they fell short by 2 points and must now beat England on Friday to stay in contention. At the Rugby Union World Cup, England has embarrassed Tonga. South Africa beat Uruguay and Ireland downed Romania. The Irish win booked their quarter-final appearance. Australia finished best of the group. Kari Webb has slipped to 5 strokes off the pace at the Tournament of Champions, the 2 over 74 leaving her struggling. Basketball and the Victoria Titans go into the local derby against the Melbourne Tigers in form, defeating Canberra overnight. In Victorian Premier Cricket, Hawthorn Waverley's Peter Roach was the best of the batsmen, with Northcote's Sean Flegler amongst the wickets. Jamie Aldridge, National 9 News.
And Joe, that's all for Caulfield Cup Day Sport.
Good on you. Thanks, Leith. Still to come, the weather and a couple of old swingers at the cathedral.
One-ton rodeo! One-ton rodeo! One-ton rodeo!
Holden Rodeo V6. The most powerful V6 one-tonner. The one and only range of Holden Rodeo V6s.
Tomorrow, we look at some of the greatest battles of the 20th century. The wars, the riots, the victims. Prepare yourself for football in part 7 of Images of the 20th Century, free in your paper tomorrow.
It's a spirit of freedom. With new services that will change the way you travel. Club lounges where you can catch up or wind down. And all from the airline the world has grown to trust. New style, new service, new spirit.
So, this is my company, and these are my customers.
Now, add in your suppliers, your electronic purchasing, your salespeople, your customer relationship management, but they're all linked through the internet.
Oh, so they're seamlessly connected.
Exactly. So it feels as simple as this to that to that.
I'm not going to eat those.
Can I have them?
From idea to implementation, and lots of working lunches.
Hey, there's always a bit of funny business going on.
don't think there's enough of that going on.
Party on with Harry Connick Jr. and Brooke Shields coming up next on 9.
It was good to have some sunshine for the weekend after yesterday's rain. Maximum stayed very close to average, the warmest spot Mildura with 25. In the metropolitan area we had a low of 10.3 at 5:30 and reached 19.7 at 2:10. Outside now it's back to 17 degrees. Not much cloud on the satellite photo except for some activity associated with the cold front. It's moving steadily across the country, due in Western Victoria by tomorrow afternoon. The wind will shift from a warm northerly to a cooler southwesterly. Interstate basically a fine forecast in all the capitals, with the change affecting Adelaide. For Victoria, apart from local morning fogs in the south, it's going to be fine for most of the time, with the thundery change moving in from the west later. Here in Melbourne, more sunshine to give us a perfect spring weekend. We'll have a moderate northerly until that southwest change due during the evening. We could have a few thundery showers as well. Checking ahead, no warm weather in sight after tomorrow. Still a few showers around on Monday and Tuesday, a fine top of 19 on Wednesday. Another southwest change bringing cool temperatures and a few showers through to next weekend. Now finally, the Melbourne Festival usually leads to some unusual sights on our city streets, and this year is proving to be no exception. Gargoyles are a grotesque form of plumbing designed to hide the spouting on great buildings like St Paul's Cathedral. They can also be pretty scary when it looks as though they've become more down to earth than they were originally meant to be. Today's roof theatre performance drew an appreciative, if at times apprehensive, audience, which appeared quite pleased when the gargoyles returned to their lofty hang-ups. And that's the news for now. I'll have live updates on the Frankston East election throughout the evening. Good night.
This has been a National 9 News presentation. Sunday night at the movies.
You are about to have a very bad hit. Tell me about it.
Bruce Willis heads an all-action cast in the blockbuster.
You know what I'm doing? Not even God knows what you're doing.
Die Hard with a Vengeance, 8:30 Sunday on 9.
There's only one thing we want from our home loan.
And that's to get rid of it as soon as possible.
Whatever you want from a home loan, the National can tailor a solution. To find out more, just call 13 63 64.
All for tomorrow? No worries.
Brother understands that being in business for yourself isn't always an easy ride. That's why Brother invented their smart new range of office equipment. From world-leading faxes and printers to Brother's famous 8-in-1 multifunction centres. Designed to help small business get back on track. Brother, at your side.
The world has not just one face, but many of endless variety that you'll have the time to explore when you win 2 Ansett business class flights every year for the next 10 years. It's yours, along with 5,000 global rewards points when you're approved for the only card that earns you 1.5 points for every dollar you spend. Diners Club. There may never be a better time to join. Call now.
Home buyers, come to the Bank of Melbourne and cut your home loan interest by up to 40%. Call 131 575. 131 575. The Bank of Melbourne cuts the cost of banking.
6:30 tonight, Harry Connick Jr. and Brooke Shields on Hey Hey. Then 8:30, Claudia Carvin leads an all-star Australian cast in The Violent Earth.